Well, good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Our lesson this morning is entitled A Parable of a Pencil, Our Lesson in Service. The other day, I was searching for a pen to write an important message. In fact, in this desk where I'm sitting right now. And I opened my desk drawer and I began to search for the pen. And I picked up a pen, I found one, and then I heard a voice come from within the drawer. Hey, what about me? Well, I looked around to see who was talking, and there was nobody there. So I looked down, and there was a pencil in the top drawer of my desk staring up at me. Was that you talking to me? I never heard a pencil talking, I thought, and said out loud even. Well, said the pencil, I just had to speak up and let you know that I'm available to be used for your writing. I've been sitting here in this drawer for a long time, and always been passed up all the time for those ugly pens. And I'd like to want to speak up for a change. Well, I said, well, that's true, but that's not the way things are now. Pens are the ways to write a note if you want to not have to type out an email or something, but you want to handwrite something, you use a pen. I haven't used a pencil since I was young, in fact, when I was in school. Well, tell me about yourself, and I'll decide if I want to use you or a pen. But no guarantee now. Okay, he says, that's fair. So let me tell you a little bit about myself that might change your mind, he said. He said in the earlier days of space research, a space research center had to devise a method to enable astronauts to write in a special conditions inside outer space, such as zero gravity. So a team of scientists proposed an expensive project to develop a special pen for use just in space. While a proposal was being presented before the staff, there was a young scientist who stood up and asked, I've got a humble suggestion to make. Instead of spending such a large amount to develop a special pen, why don't we try to use just the ordinary pencil? Well, the suggestion was received with a great applause. Initial trials proved that a pencil could work well in conditions of zero gravity. And some early space travelers used it, in fact. Later, it was feared that the fine particles of zero gravity and graphite that came from writing of it, though, from eroding lead, can conduct electricity and may possibly affect the operation of delicate electronic control systems in this spacecraft inside space. And so they had to fabricate something a little different later on. But it was the pencil that began it all in regard to what we can do in today. But pencil said, well, let me tell you more about where I come from, though. That's really where the meat of it really all is. When the pencil was made for the first time, the pencil maker gave the pencil some very crucial, pertinent, important instructions, which can actually give even you some very inspiring lessons to apply to your own life. A greater gifted teacher once said that the pencil was given to each student and asked them to list the lessons of life that we can learn from a pencil. And the major messages presented for the following that I'm going to share with you here today. The first lesson that the pencil can give us about life is that each pencil has a definite purpose. It draws a line and it moves forward. This line becomes letters, it becomes words, it becomes phrases, sentences, and finally, a unique presentation of a great, wonderful message comes from just this line drawn from this pencil. And so doing, every person is a special, noble creation of God with a particular purpose, a role and a mission in this world. But our life and our actions we have to fulfill the intention of the Creator. It's through our lives that we give God the glory and a purpose in this life. The first instruction that the pencil maker gave the pencil was, what is truly important actually lies within you. The pencil has two aspects to it. The outside, which is a beautiful colored wooden casing, and on the inside, which is the lead, its very substance, its very purpose. Similarly, in our lives as well, we have the outside. The outside is about our personality, in my case, good looks, and our presence. I always say no one looks as good as their Facebook profile picture, and no one looks as ugly as their driver's license picture. But the outside is about personality. The inside is about being a genuine, sincere person. Many years ago, Abraham Lincoln was elected president, and he was a storekeeper in Salem, Illinois. Abe had a rifle displayed in his store that was one of the most beautiful rifles ever made. The barrel was made from the finest steel, the stock was formed from the best walnut wood, and a world-famous gunsmith assembled the gun. The price was extremely reasonable. Displayed next to this attractive gun was a rack of ordinary Kentucky squirrel rifles. These long rifles were made from ordinary gun steel and plain wooden stocks, yet the price was higher. A customer entered the store looking for a new rifle, and he was impressed by the fine-looking gun, but was confused as why it was priced much lower than the less attractive guns. Abe explained that the good-looking rifle was for show, while the others were for shooting. The pioneer bought the Kentucky squirrel rifle. A little while later, a rich farmer decorating a room in his country mansion, and he wanted to place a gun over the fireplace mantel with his big game trophies. Abe's fancy gun was exactly what he needed for that display. The fact that it had not even been shot was irrelevant. The purpose of the gun had been changed. God has given each of us a purpose too. We can choose to work for God's glory and make disciples for Christ, or we can choose to be decorations in the church. What purpose are you serving in your relationship with Christ? I want the whole Christ for my Savior, the whole Bible for my book, the whole church for my fellowship, and the whole world for my mission field, said John Wesley. 2 Corinthians 4:7 asserts this, but we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us. Well, here's my second lesson to share with you. A pencil permits itself to be held and guided by hand to perform with perfection. We must be ready to be guided by the will, words, and the hands of God. We must be humble and ready to surrender ourselves to the will of God. And that's the only way to achieve greater things in life. There once was a man on a journey to Colorado Springs from Nashville. And being unfamiliar with the route, he became confused and took the wrong road. But when he realized his predicament, he stopped his car and asked a passing stranger, "Can you help me? I'm lost." "Well, where are you headed?" the stranger asked. "Well, I'm going to Colorado Springs," the traveler answered, to which the stranger replied, "Then you're not lost. You know where you're going. You just need direction." That is so insightful. Proverbs 12:5 advises us this way, "The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice." Well, here's our next lesson about the pencil. Lesson number 3. A pencil leaves a definite mark on the surface on which it moves. So we do our duties with dedication. We must leave our mark in every situation we are involved in and every person we interact with. That's the mark of our Creator, which He uses to change the world is through us by the mark that we leave on His behalf of whoever we encounter. So the pencil maker told the pencil, "Unless what is within you becomes out through the lead, you cannot make an impact. It's only when the lead comes out of the casing can the pencil actually make an impact on the paper by writing something." Now, similarly in our lives as well, unless that is what is within us comes out, we will not be able to make an impact either on our own lives or those that we encounter. Thus, the Latin word educare form, which the English word education is derived from, means to bring out the virtues, to bring out the qualities of our soul. Yes, our personality can impress, but being a genuine person can inspire. Yes, our charisma can impress, but our character can inspire others. So we need to leave a legacy. No matter the surface it writes on, a pencil leaves a trace. Similarly, we should strive to leave a positive, wherever we go, message in that life. Our actions ripple through time, shaping the world around us. I heard one time a saying that says that God gives birds their food, but he doesn't throw it into their nest. It is for us to do our work. It is for us to do our part, to leave a mark, to leave a legacy on those around us. When they think of us, they think of Christ. I had the opportunity and blessing to perform many memorial ceremonies for our fallen soldiers while serving as a chaplain. As I reflect back on those moments, I am struck by the legacy and the impact each of those soldiers had on their friends and service to their family. These hardened soldiers openly wept over the loss of their friend and teammate. Their grief was deep, but most strikingly was the response to the loss afterward. With renewed courage and tenacity and resolve, these soldiers were determined to carry on the legacy of their fallen friend. With a new commitment, they went back into battle and carried the memory so their friend would always live in their hearts and be part of their team. The fallen soldier left a mark in every life around them. Here's our next lesson, 4. The most important part of the pencil is on the inside. The lead is made of graphite. It's what enables it to leave a mark on the surface when it moves across it. The decorated outer wooden portion may have been visible beauty, but its appearance can be deceptive. The quality of the pencil is decided by the inner lead. The eternal soul within us is more important than the perishable body which houses it. The inner beauty and virtue of a person cannot be judged by their external appearance. The core of the pencil, the graphite inside, is its essence. Likewise, our inner qualities of character and values define us. Nurture your inner self, for that's what the strength lies at all times. There's a great story I read in my file just recently about a man who loved old books. So he met an acquaintance who had just thrown away a Bible that had been stored in his attic by his ancestral home for generations. And his friend said, "I couldn't read it. Somebody named Gutenberg, something like that, printed it." "Not Gutenberg," exclaimed the friend. "I can't believe that. That Bible was one of the first books ever printed. Why, a copy just sold the other day for over $2 million. His friend said, "Oh, I'm not impressed." He said, "Mine wouldn't have bought $1. Some fellow named Martin Luther scribbled all over it in German." Kind of like my luck. It's what's inside. It was reported that millionaires, 11 of them, went down the Titanic. Major Pushin left $300,000 in money, jewelry, and securities in a box in a cabin. And he said later on, after he was rescued, "The money seemed a mockery at that time. I picked up 3 oranges instead." It's interesting, the values people put on stuff. It's amazing what sells on eBay these days. A Brazilian manufacturer put a UFO detector, I remember reading this in Scientific American magazine, with AA batteries included on eBay. Did you know that the detector could detect fluctuations in the Earth's magnetic field caused by visitations from alien spacecraft? Did you know that? He sold it for $135.03. Someone bought that thing. A grilled cheese sandwich, for example, was said to bear the image of the Virgin Mary, sold for $28,000. A haunted walking cane went for $65,000. One buyer paid $263 for Britney Spears chewing gum, and a potato chip shaped like a cowboy went for $1,000. You cannot put a price tag on the joy that Jesus brings to a person's heart. It's what connects inside, what's important. In Matthew 5:16, it advises us this way: in the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. It's what's inside. Lesson 5. A pencil is used along with an eraser. Sometimes the eraser is attached to the other end of the pencil. Though a mark of correction may remain, the eraser enables immediate correction of any mistake that is done. We make mistakes in our life. To be error is human, but a humble person corrects their error at the earliest moment. We have to learn from our mistakes and proceed in pursuit of perfection. The fifth message that the pencil maker gave the pencil was this: when you write, you will most certainly end up making mistakes. What truly great is right behind you is an attached eraser that you can easily correct that mistake and again write the right thing. Even in our lives, we make so many mistakes. What's amazing is that God has given us the opportunity, the chance to erase them, to correct them, and rewrite our stories. A really good true story I read in a newspaper recently is about a pastor in Boston who had been harassed by a woman in his congregation. She started false rumors about him. She wrote vicious letters about him to the bishop and others. She initiated petitions to have him removed, and after several months of this, the woman moved to another city, and not long afterward was converted to Christ. Part of the process of her conversion was to realize the terrible wrong that she had done and all the pain and suffering that she had inflicted upon this pastor in Boston in her viciousness and her nastiness. But now she has seen Christ's love in her heart. So consequently, she wrote him a long letter explaining what had happened to her and how deeply she regretted what she had done to him. Well, the pastor immediately wrote an email back to her and said 3 words: forgiven, forgotten, forever. Isn't that humble? Isn't that great? Psalms 119:71 confirms to us, it is good for me that I was afflicted, that I might learn from statutes. Well, let's go to lesson number 6. We got 2 more to go. A pencil has to be sharpened and polished frequently to serve its function with perfection. Human life requires occasional painful sharpening to achieve its goal. Sharpening of human life is through adversities and painful experiences that we have to endure life. They lead to physical, mental, and spiritual strengthening and regeneration. Adversity is the best university in our life of learning. So this third part, this instruction that the pencil gave the pencil, was unless you go through sharpening, what is within you was not going to come out. The pencil has to go through painful sharpening before the sharp lead comes out and makes an impact. And similarly, in life, unless we go through painful sharpening, the best things within will never come out. As they say, no pain, no gain. The job, for example, can give you an idea of a football coach, is to make men do what they don't want to do in order to achieve what they always wanted to do, says Tom Landry. But let's put it from Romans, one of the great letters from Rome from Paul. Not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. It is through our sufferings that God is sharpening us, and God is preparing us to do His work in this world. Well, let's get to our last lesson, number 7. When we apply too much pressure on the pencil while writing, it can break the tip of the lead, causing great damage and hindrance to smooth writing. In application, unnecessary stress and anxiety and strain from trying to do too much with too little can damage our life and progress. When we're ready to be humble and accept the will of God, life becomes steady, pleasant, and enjoyable because we're within God's grace and within our confines of what we can and should be doing. As someone said, it's only natural that stressed out people eat more desserts because stressed spelled backwards is desserts. Did you know that? If that's true, then there's a whole lot of steady and stress between Thanksgiving and New Year, at least in my life. There's a story told by Charles Darwin, the great scientist, that one day he was eagerly holding one rare beetle, and he was a great lover of getting insects and butterflies and all kind of things. He would collect them. And he found this beautiful beetle in his right hand. And there was another one in his left. And then all of a sudden, he caught sight of a third beetle that he just had to have for his collection. What do I do? In a flash, he put one of those beetles into his mouth for safekeeping and reached for a third beetle with his new free hand. But the mouth-imprisoned beetle squirted acid down Darwin's throat so that in a fit of coughing, he lost all three beetles. James 3:13 says this, "Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in humility that comes from wisdom." And Charles Darwin didn't do that. But it's a great lesson for us that we've got to be able to be humble in our work. And our lead needs to stay sharp and steady. And if we put too much pressure on it because we try to go beyond what we're supposed to be doing, something happened that's not good. Well, the pencil finished his story, and I got the point. Sorry, bad pun. So I picked up the pencil with new respect. Every time now that I see his pencil, I remember what it's teaching me. Saint Mother Teresa said this, "We are all pencils in the hands of God." And Ephesians 2:10 reminds us, "For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." So today, remember the lesson of the pencil, of what it symbolizes. And every time, in fact, you might want to keep one on your desk and one right in front of you and just look at it occasionally and remember the lesson the pencil taught us in this lesson, that we must be able to be ready to do God's work about what the values are in our life, to stay sharp, to stay ready, to leave a legacy, and to be able to do what God has intended us to do and not overdo it. That's our lesson for today. The Lord bless you. God bless you.